The invitation arrived casually, almost thoughtfully. My wife explained that she and her ex-husband were organizing a birthday dinner for their son at a cozy, intimate restaurant downtown. Candlelight, soft background music, reservations booked weeks ahead. Then, with a tone both gentle and firm, she added, "Family only." I studied her face for a moment, searching for hesitation, a hint of doubt about what she was asking. There was none. I nodded and said, "I understand," and on some level I did. I understood that their son came first.
I understood co parenting.
What I didn't yet grasp was where I belonged in a marriage that could so effortlessly erase me. That evening, I watched them leave together, dressed neatly, laughing in the driveway like a photograph already complete without me. The house grew quiet behind them. In that stillness, something settled inside me. Not anger, not envy, but a realization I could no longer ignore. I stayed at the kitchen table long after they were gone, repeating the phrase in my mind. Family only. I thought of the years I had shown up, school pickups, homework sessions, midnight fevers, silent support. No one had noticed. I had never tried to replace his father. I had only tried to be present. Yet when a moment came to symbolize togetherness, I was left out without hesitation. I wasn't hurt by the party itself. I was shaken by how natural it seemed to exclude me. That truth hurt more than rejection. It meant I had already been placed outside the circle in my own home. I didn't text. I didn't ask for explanations. I didn't linger in hope. I simply stood, opened my laptop, and began something I should have done long ago. Examining my life without assuming I had a permanent place in theirs. The more I reflected, the clearer it became. This wasn't about a single dinner. It was about a recurring pattern I had excused in the name of understanding. Decisions made without me. Boundaries drawn around memories I had nurtured but never shared. I realized patience had quietly turned into invisibility. That night, I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I planned. I reviewed finances, agreements, and obligations with a calm I hadn't felt in years. Respect doesn't vanish overnight. It erodes when taken for granted rather than defended. I recognized that my role had been reduced to silent support, useful, reliable, and easily dismissed. Accepting that fact stung, but it also clarified something crucial. I didn't need to demand inclusion. I needed to decide whether I could accept exclusion. While they celebrated under warm lights, sharing smiles across the table, I packed only what mattered. Everything else remained where it was. Rooms that had felt familiar now seemed borrowed, temporary. I left no note. Words would have demanded explanations, and explanations wouldn't change reality. Before leaving, I placed an envelope on the counter, impossible to miss. Inside were neatly organized documents. Decisions made, steps taken, boundaries set. Nothing impulsive, nothing spiteful, simply final. I locked the door and walked into the night without looking back. Leaving wasn't dramatic. It was overdue. Sometimes the loudest statements are made quietly, without witnesses, without confrontation. I didn't leave to punish. I left because staying felt like agreeing with a version of myself I no longer recognized. Hours later, they returned, carrying stories and leftovers, expecting the house to greet them as always. Instead, they found silence and the envelope. My wife opened it first, her smile fading line by line as comprehension sank in. The shock wasn't anger. It wasn't blame. It was certainty. The documents explained everything clearly. Separation, boundaries, and my decision to step away from a marriage in which family had been defined without me. There was no finger-pointing, only truth. She called immediately. It went to voicemail. She texted, confused, then panicked. Her ex-husband lingered awkwardly, realizing he was not part of this moment, though he had helped create it. The celebration they had planned concluded with a consequence no one anticipated. Not because I had been excluded once, but because I finally refused to exclude myself from my own life. I spent that night somewhere quiet, somewhere I didn't owe anyone an explanation. I slept deeply, the kind of sleep that follows a long internal argument reaching its end. Morning brought more messages. Questions, regrets, attempts to soften what had already hardened. I didn't reply immediately. Decisions deserve space. When I did respond, it was brief, composed. I told her I understood why she had made her choice, and I asked her to understand why I made mine. Love doesn't vanish in a single moment, but respect can. Without respect, love has no shelter. I wasn't angry at her son. I wasn't competing with her past. I was choosing a future where I was not an afterthought. That distinction mattered more than anything she could say. In the weeks that followed, reality settled in. Logistics replaced emotion. Conversations became measured and contained. She admitted she had never meant to hurt me, only to keep things simple. I told her simplicity should never come at the cost of someone's dignity. She asked if there was a path back. I told her there was a path forward, but not together. Some lessons come too late to undo what's broken. but never too late to prevent it from repeating. Leaving didn't erase the good years. Placed them in context. I hadn't failed as a husband. I had only reached the limit of what quiet understanding can carry. Letting go wasn't bitterness. It was self-respect finally catching up to reality. Looking back, that birthday dinner wasn't an exclusion. It was a revelation. It showed me exactly where I stood, without argument or denial. Saying I understood wasn't weakness. It was the moment I accepted the truth and acted on it. The surprise I left behind wasn't meant to shock. It was meant to close a story that had quietly stopped being fair. Families can be complicated, blended, imperfect, but no one should feel optional in their own marriage. I didn't depart loudly. I didn't demand apologies. I simply chose to stop proving my worth. Sometimes the most profound surprise is the certainty that you will no longer stay where you do not fully belong.